All right, so I am going to be doing a reaction to a Nick Fuentes video that I wanted to do a little while ago. This video is a couple of months old, but this video is on a very important subject, and I don't think it gets enough attention. And this is an issue that is disproportionately affecting white males across the country. And I'm going to be giving you a statistical breakdown later on in the video. So I did capture the whole 19-minute clip from Nick Fuentes. I'm probably not going to do the whole entire 19-minute clip because that's kind of long, especially when you're doing reaction. But I just wanted to lay out a little bit of context before I start playing the video. And shout out to all my new subscribers. I appreciate everybody following my channel. I'm now over 300 subscribers. I would love to hit 500 by the end of the month. So if you like the content and you want to support my channel, feel free to subscribe, comment, do something after you watch the video, like, subscribe, or comment so the algorithm can do something for me. And, I don't really YouTube a lot, but I do it, as much as I can based on my schedule. And I have a little bit more off time this time of year working as a landscaper. So hopefully I can upload more content. And like I said in some of my previous Nick Fuentes reaction videos, I am not a person that's just trying to use Nick Fuentes' content for clicks and views. I'm going to give you real, substantive commentary. And if I agree with Nick, I'm going to say I agree with him. If I disagree with him, I'm going to say I disagree with him. And I've done several videos where I disagreed with him. But either way it goes, like I said, this is a very, very important and very, very serious issue that is disproportionately affecting white American men. And Nick Fuentes' commentary about it is very harsh. But as men, sometimes we need to hear the harsh truth. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and let him start.
Clippy Groip sent $10, 5/5. You and the Grow Wipers are the only reason I haven't tried to kill myself again, and indeed, the only reason I'm still Christian. If possible, I'd like to ask for prayers, both for myself and that other Grow Wipers would see this and learn from my mistakes. Thanks for everything you do.
You sound like a huge narcissist, is what you sound like, to be honest with you. So, I mean, there is something narcissistic about self-pity. There's something very narcissistic about saying, woe is me, why me? I have had a failure to launch because of ADHD. ADHD that doesn't respond to medication. That sounds like long COVID. Okay, it'd be one thing if you had, dude, I know people in wheelchairs that are more on top of it. You had medication-resistant ADHD. That's why you're a janitor. And I tried to kill myself. And here's my 5 messages, and everyone pray for me. Like, you sound like a huge narcissist. So I would say you are not the most important person in the world. You need to seek humility, okay? I'm glad you like the show, but this all I felt is bitterness and hatred. Like, you are not entitled to feel bitter. You're not entitled to feel hatred. The world owes you nothing. The world owes you nothing. So if you're a loser, if you feel like a loser, if you don't make money, if you have a low status job and you're bitter and hateful, that's because you feel like the world owes you something. You feel entitled, and you should feel entitled to nothing. Okay?
Okay, just to add a little bit of context before we keep going, there was somebody who super chatted Nick Fuentes several times, and he did not necessarily want to read all the super chats. He has it on, I guess, auto read, where the computer reads it for him, so he doesn't have to because of so many super chats he gets during some of his shows. So he was basically scolding a gentleman who super chatted him about, giving up on life, aka committing suicide. And that's where this is, coming from. So he's responding to somebody who was giving him some super chats, and he's basically telling him that he sounds like a narcissist and that the world doesn't owe you anything and nobody pities you. And that's kind of how it is as a man. Like, the world does owe you nothing. And we're taught as men to just shut up, do the work, get your shit together, whatever. And nobody cares about your feelings. That's just the way it works as a man. Society does not coddle men. That's just the way it works. It's okay for men to seek help. It's okay for men to express ourselves when we need to. But basically, Nick is saying, get over yourself.
I have crippling ADHD. People have fought back from far worse. Get your shit together. Get over yourself. That's my advice. Get the fuck over yourself. Terrible attitude. This is like one of these sob stories that a woman would fall for. Oh my gosh, I love to hear that. No, this just stinks of narcissism. I'm stuck living with my parents. Dude, so is everybody. I'm trapped working as a custodian because my brain is so fucked up. I can't do anything else. That just sounds like an excuse. If you could be a custodian, you could do a lot of things. Being a custodian is like a low-skill job. There's other jobs you could get, I'm sure. So this like I hate the world because I live with my parents and I'm in my 20s. Dude, a lot of people have shit jobs, live with their parents, and are in their 20s. And they don't feel entitled to be bitter or commit suicide. And they don't blame it on ADHD. So these are lame excuses. Someone needs to tell you this. Someone needs to tell you this. Get over yourself. Stop making excuses for yourself. You are not entitled to be bitter and hateful. You should be grateful to be alive. You should be grateful to have your parents. You should be grateful to have a home. And if you want more out of life, then you need to get your shit together. Otherwise, you should be grateful that you have a job. You know? If your ADHD is so debilitating, you should feel grateful that you got something going on. What the fuck does the world owe you? You know, I love when people think that if someone is successful out there, it's because, you know, they got lucky. Everybody's got problems. You think you're the only one with problems? Everybody's got problems. I have medication-resistant ADHD. There's some people that don't have arms and legs. There's people that don't have faces. You know, there's people that are mentally retarded. There's people that have overcome far worse. And you're bitching because you're living with parents that love you in a house. You have a job. And you're in your 20s? Get over yourself. What do you think the world owes you at this stage? If you think you're entitled to more, you need to work for it. You need to work on your problems. Everybody pray for me. How about you work hard first? I really don't like that super chat. I really don't like that. 5 messages is like, holy. And by the way, suicide, fuck you. I'm not one of these people that says, oh, you try to commit suicide, poor you. You try to commit suicide, fuck you. You know, and my grandfather committed suicide. I think that's one of the most selfish things that anybody in my family has ever done. And I don't know him. I never met him. I don't know what he was going through. But what he did to my grandmother, what he did to my mother, to my uncle, how he affected generations, the suffering that caused, the way that rippled over generations, over half a century. I don't feel bad for people that commit suicide. Like, unless it's somebody, you know, the guy that gave money to me, that was an extraordinary circumstance. He had this debilitating neurological condition, you know, some of the euthanasia stuff, there's an ethical question. But you're saying you're going to kill yourself because you're sad, because you're 20 and you're sad? I mean, what a joke, dude.
Okay, I got to stop it right there. This type of content from Nick Fuentes is never going to get the clicks and views like the Israel stuff or the stuff about black fatigue or some of the more, I guess you could say, spicy, more racy content. This is, it is an important issue, like I said, but like I said, it primarily affects white male, and I'll get into those statistics in a little while. It affects all demographics. Don't get it twisted. Black men, white men, Latino men, Asian men, etc. But just to give you a quick number, you look at all the demographics: white man, white woman, black man, black woman, Hispanic man, Hispanic woman, etc., etc. Out of the 8 demographics, race and gender included, the white male alone commits 70% of all suicides in this nation. You can look it up. 70% of all suicides in the nation. And like I said, his delivery, his reaction is harsh, But I agree with him that committing suicide is selfish, especially if you have a wife and kids. He just talked about his grandfather committed suicide. He never got to meet him. I don't really have any friends of mine that committed suicide, but I do have some classmates who committed suicide. White males. I went to a mostly white high school. I went to a few different colleges. Two were mostly white. And of course, the other two were mostly black or minority majority. And then I knew a friend, my dad's friend from the military, a black man committed suicide because he had a drug problem and he couldn't kick his drug habit. So he took his life, broke his wife's heart. And he had kids as well. So I feel, Nick, 100% that when you commit suicide, you're hurting other people. And that's the part that a lot of people that may commit suicide seem to gloss over because they're so concerned about their problems. They're so concerned about what they're going through that they don't think about the long-term ramifications that their loss is going to have on their loved ones. Whether you believe it or not, somebody loves you. Somebody cares about you. And we'll continue the video, but I just wanted to, say that even though his response to this super chatter is harsh, I agree with him just without all the, I guess you could say lack of empathy. But at the end of the day, he's correct. It is a selfish act to commit suicide.
I have no pity. I have next to no pity. And I get it. It's a touchy subject. It's obviously when someone takes their life, it's a very sad thing for everybody. But, don't come to me with that. Oh, you're the only reason I didn't kill myself. Really? How about your parents? What's your mom going to think when you kill yourself? You thought of that even for once? You think what anybody else would think for 1 second? That you have obligations? That's just ridiculous. I think it's a very selfish thing. Nobody thinks of that either. It's in my opinion, a very narcissistic act in almost every case. In some cases, you read some horror stories where somebody's like a vegetable and they want to die. It's like, okay, I kind of understand that on some level. But I think there's a lot of kids that it is just like this narcissistic self-talk that whips them up into this, I got to do it. Have you thought about what your parents would think? You're the only reason I wouldn't do it. Why? Because I'm giving you a dopamine rush right now? What was the rant that did it? Giving up bitterness or something? Well, I'm glad that resonated with you, but you need a little tune-up, man. Bad attitude. If I had a kid and they attempted suicide, I would beat the shit out of them. You would be sympathetic. Obviously, it's your kid, but it's like, that's just insane. That's insane. You can't be doing that, man. Think about someone other than yourself. So, but I'm glad to hear it. Listen, we're glad you're still with us. We are glad you're still with us. And I'm glad you're inspired. But here's the next step. You got to get out of that loser mentality. No more, I'm going to kill myself. No more, I can't get ahead because of my ADHD. No more, I hate the world because I don't have more. Got to get over that, okay, buddy? Be grateful for what we have. Every day above the ground is a good day, okay? Whatever your station, the sunlight is free. You have to get a sense of perspective. So, I've never understood that. I've always loved life. Even though I'm a pretty miserable person, I've always loved every waking moment of my life. I love existing. I love being alive. I love being here to contemplate, to think. We have a mind. It's a blessing to share in existence with God. And if you don't have a deep appreciation for that, nothing will fill that void for you, okay? And you can feel better and worse, and you can feel happy and sad. But if you don't have that deep appreciation that you exist, you know, you're never going to get over that. So, and even the occasional motivational speech is not going to get you there. So, but it starts with some humility. Okay? Work on that. Work on that, please.
Nick, I'm disappointed with your take on suicide. My uncle took his own life. Many men end things because of the state society is in. Many similar types of men that would feel you represent them. Desperation or extreme pain isn't selfishness. Suicide is proportionally a huge and growing cause of male deaths in the West. Eyes emoji.
Yeah, you're just a faggot for saying that. There's no excuse. There's no excuse. Conditions are bad. There's no excuse for that. And let's just get a little sense of perspective. Life is suffering. Okay, pal? Life is suffering. People talk about the loneliness epidemic. People talk about the permanent recession that many small towns and cities are experiencing. People talk about feminism. They talk about these social, societal pressures. Life is suffering. Life is pain. Look at other continents. Look at what's happening in Africa. They eat people there. Look at what happens in India. Look at the filth. Look at the chaos. How dirty and unclean it is. Look at the air, the water. The whole world is miserable. The whole world is a miserable place. Suicide is never acceptable, and there's no excuse for it. And I don't know if you're a woman. You sound like a woman. That's a woman's interpretation of it. There is never an excuse for suicide. It is never acceptable. It is never something that you say, well, it's justified. Why? Because you're feeling sad?
Okay, so let me just interrupt here. I'm going to play one more segment before we wrap the video up. This was from the Baton Rouge Journal. There are many different sources. You can look this up. In 2021, white men accounted for nearly 70% of suicide deaths. In 2001, 73% of all suicide deaths and 80% of all firearm deaths, suicide deaths were white males. That's an old statistic, of course. White men are 30% of the U.S. population. And then when it comes to females, the greatest number of female suicides are non-Hispanic white females. So the white race is number one in suicides. I think Asian men are number two, then probably black and Hispanic. And then, of course, believe it or not, the lowest demographic of all eight, you know, the white man, white woman, black woman, etc., is the black female. So black women actually commit suicide at the lowest rate of any demographic in the country. That's one statistic that black people can be proud of. And I want to read a couple of these comments that I screenshotted because I thought the comments were interesting. There were, of course, some people who disagreed with Nick, but a lot of people actually agreed with Nick, despite his very, very harsh response to this super chatter. And some people even experienced suicide in their lives or somebody in their families. This comment here says, "My wife and I held our son in my arms as he died. No one knows this pain and grief until they've lived it. Never once did I contemplate suicide. The only option is strength and to be the pillar in your life for those around you. The guy is pathetic. If your janitorial job makes you miserable, literally do anything else unreal." So he's referring to the guy who was super chatting Nick, that Nick was going off on for having suicidal thoughts. And Nick did say, "I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you didn't take your life, but get over yourself." Another person put, "He's right, and people butthurt over it is mad because he is not sponsoring the whiny BS. You have the ability to take the reins on your life, live radically and live passionately. Most of the people are the reason for their own suffering. This goes so incredibly hard. I've been screaming this. My cousin killed himself and he was an effing loser for it." So I guess this guy is, mad about his cousin taking his life. Like I said, it affects other people. And then one person put, "Nick is completely correct. The worst narcissism is woe is me suicide. I'm a female and have no sentimentality for this." Never heard that word before. "I know a woman whose husband threatens suicide every so often. I consider that a form of emotional abuse. Weak as F." And then another person put, "People need to hear this. Shut up and get active."
Some people are in an altered state of consciousness. I suppose that makes it a little bit less bad if somebody's totally drunk and your decision making is impaired. That's one thing. If you don't have full control over your faculties in a very narrow sense, that doesn't make it acceptable. But you say, okay, some people are so depressed. Some people get drunk or high. They do it in an altered state, and that's, I suppose, a little different. Doesn't make it any less unacceptable, but if the decision making is impaired for any sin, it's a different accountability. But because you're experiencing some emotion, no, there's no justification. You're disappointed. I'm disappointed in you. I'm disappointed that you would say that. I'm disappointed that you are so narcissistic or that you are so gripped by sentimentality that you don't understand something that should be instinctual, should be inherent. Life is a gift. Existence is a gift. Suffering is a gift. It all has a purpose. It all has meaning. It is not your life to take. Your life was given to you by God. You were ensouled in a body by God. You share in an existence upheld by God. You have no right to take it away. You have no right to end it. So don't give me that shit. Well, they do it because of the way society is. Fuck you, you fucking loser. Fuck off. We don't need you. What a loser mentality. Well, man, you know, sometimes we kill ourselves because of the way... You know what? Do black people kill themselves? You see a lot of black people killing themselves? You know, I disown you. I fucking disown you. I want nothing to do with you. Go fuck off and go join some other loser movement. This is not a movement for losers that commit suicide.
Okay, I had to interrupt on this part because I'm glad he brought up black people when it comes to suicide. Like I said in the previous statistic. Oh, and by the way, I looked up the word sentimentality. It just means like overly emotional, excessive tenderness, overly dramatic, whatever. So I'll be learning certain words from certain content creators that I never heard before. But anyway, the reason why, and I'm an 80s baby, like I said, I'm an older millennial. I'm 40 years old. I know I don't look like it. But here's the thing. We as black people, and this is a statistic, like I said, we can be proud of because we got so many bad statistics about us. We don't commit suicide. The overwhelming majority of us is because when we're growing up, we're taught that if you kill yourself, you go to hell. And since I'm on the subject of heaven and hell, Nick Fuentes does mention God towards the end of the clip, and I'm going to let you hear that part. But you need to start a relationship with God if you don't already have one. If you do have one and you've fallen away from God, you better get back right with him. I just came from the Megyn Kelly show. She had a show down here in Georgia out in the suburbs with some guests. She had MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, with her. It was a pretty cool show. It was free for me because I knew people that were giving away free tickets. But she mentioned faith, and there were people, questioning her about her faith and all that. I think Megyn Kelly's Catholic. But yes, Nick Fuentes is correct. Black people, we don't really commit suicide like that. And the reason why, like I said, is because growing up, we are taught, especially by our grandmothers, we are taught that if you kill yourself, you go to hell. I don't know how true that is, but God gave us life, and who are we to take it away? You know what I'm saying? Like the Bible says, God hates hands that shed innocent blood. So he obviously don't want us killing other people for no reason. Self-defense, that's obviously something different. I think Nick Fuentes earlier in the video mentioned something about a person suffering from a debilitating disease, they're a vegetable, whatever. That's euthanasia, right? I don't even agree with euthanasia because that's man playing God. Christ suffered. So life is suffering, man. Life is hard. Life is hard, bro. Like this is what it is. Life is not easy. It's gonna be ups and downs, right? You're gonna have moments where you're on the mountaintop, and you can have moments where you're down in the valley. That's life. So yeah, let me be quiet and let him finish up. So because I got a couple more things I want to add, but he's exactly correct. Black people, we do not kill ourselves like that. And like I said, this problem is you do have some black people that kill themselves, men and women. Everybody commits suicide. It's not exclusive to the white race, but for the white man to make up 70% by himself, that's an alarming statistic. And we're going to continue talking about this in a minute.
Black people and Muslims come to our countries beating their chests, sounding the horns, sounding the fucking horn of war. They're here to rape and pillage and conquer. And you fucking losers sit around and say, well, I guess we gotta kill ourselves because stuff is pretty bad. What's bad, man? What is so bad? What the fuck is so bad in your life? You think you know grief? Please. You got to get that out of your head. You don't deserve to live if that's your mentality. Somebody should go and fucking kill you. Seriously. Whatever that is, get it as far away from me as possible. This kind of anti-life, woe is me. Well, you know, our situation is really bad. I get it. I get why people are sad. Fuck off. Fuck off, loser. I hate that stuff so much, man. That's life. Life is hard. You know, and people in the same breath, they talk about our ancestors. Do you know what it took to produce you? You know that people were getting split in half with swords and axes for fucking 5,000 years? Half the population got wiped out by plague. People were getting decapitated, limbs cut off. People living under slavery and oppression. People doing subsistence farming, toiling their whole lives. Have 10 kids, 5 of them die. And why? You have it bad? You feel entitled? What, life owes you more? Tell me, what are you entitled to? What should you have? Should you be rich? Should you be traveling? Should you live in a modern farmhouse and have an easy job and an easy life and not have to toil and not get sick and not have to suffer? Should your life be a never-ending feast? I mean, what exactly do you think your life is supposed to be? Life on this planet is suffering. We are born, we suffer, we die. We get judged, we go to heaven or hell. That is the deal, okay? That's the deal. You are born to suffer, and then your soul is ripped from your body painfully, and you immediately face a judgment, and you are sent to heaven or hell. That is your life. What do you think you're entitled to exactly? Now, don't get me wrong. We want justice in our country. We want our government to represent our interests. We want a better life. We strive for progress. We strive for moral and material progress. We would like for people to be healthier. We would like for people to be prosperous. We would like for people to be safe. We would like to live in a more moral society. But in order to achieve that, in the first place, there will always be suffering and death in any society. And will always be baked in. There will always be cruelty. There will always be violence. There will always be war, pestilence, sickness, famine. There will always be despair, misery, grief. These things will always be with us, no matter what. We will always die. We will always mourn our loved ones. Random, unfair things will happen. Tragedies will happen. Unspeakable horrors will be visited upon us. It will be random. It will be distributed unevenly. Why it happens, we don't know. That will always be the case. That is called the human condition. But if we want progress in society, it has to be fought for. You have to stand up and fight for it. We cannot be victims. And we cannot make excuses for ourselves. And we certainly cannot terminate our lives, which is among the greatest sins. The reason it's the greatest sin is because it is devoid of the fruits of the Spirit, which are faith, hope, and charity. You cannot be a moral person without them. You cannot be a moral person without a hope for salvation. And if you tell yourself, there is nothing left for me, I'm hopeless, then you have given into the devil. You effectively do not believe in God. If you believe in the promise of Jesus Christ, if you believe in God, you cannot, will not kill yourself. So no, it is never acceptable. It is never excusable. They should be buried in separate cemeteries. So no. I'm disappointed with your take on suicide. I'm disappointed in you. I'm disappointed in you. That is sentimentality which kills. So no, nobody, no American, no white person, no Christian, nobody in the world should be killing themselves, and nobody should be making excuses for that.
Okay, so that's actually the whole clip that he made, or he put on his, Rumble. I didn't plan on playing the whole clip, but like I said, I think this is one of his more insightful, and I guess it just wasn't a very viral or popular video of his, because it's not talking about Israel, it's not talking about race and IQ. Of course, it's Israel, Trump. Those videos he does get the most views, right? And of course, he just recently did the interview with Tucker Carlson, which did crazy numbers, especially on YouTube. And in the beginning of that last segment, he says the blacks and the Arabs are here to pillage and rape. That's not true, and that's a part I gotta disagree with him on. Of course, most of the people that are coming to America are actually Hispanic. The immigrants are mostly Hispanic. That's a fact. And then the Arabs that come over here, they're not committing the crimes against women, the raping and the pillaging like they're doing in the UK and some of the European nations. They're not violent like the European migrants are. The European migrants are mostly coming from North Africa and the Middle East. That's a totally different breed of people. The Africans that are coming over here to America are more like West Africans, like Nigerians and Ghanaians, and some of your East Africans like your Ethiopians and your Somalians up there in Minnesota. And you do have some sub-Saharan Africans that come from way down. Nigeria and Ghana are sub-Saharan as well, but some of your deep southern African countries like what's that, Rwanda, and I know a girl from Zimbabwe, right? There are a lot of Africans that come over here and they actually do very well. They're actually very successful. So I got to push back on that. That's not true. But it is true that like he said, there were a lot of treacherous periods of humanity that people had to go through just to give us life. Like, I'm a foundational black American. My ancestors were slaves. I'm born and bred here in the state of Georgia. My family has been here for generations, so I am a survivor. I have survivorship in my bloodline, because a lot of the slaves that were gonna be brought over here didn't make it. A lot of them died on the ships. Some even jumped off the boat and said they'd rather drown in the Atlantic than come live a life in bondage here in America. So the fact that my ancestors were here and worked the slaves means that we have the African Americans that are in this country right now. And a lot of us don't know this. I believe if a lot of us thought like this, a lot of us would be more, I guess we would carry ourselves with more pride. We would carry ourselves as better men and better women if we just thought like, damn, like I'm one of God knows how many Africans that didn't even make it over here. Right? And they were chained in the bowels of those ships like freaking animals, urinating and defecating on each other, disease rampant, no food, starving. They were barely alive when they made it over here. So that's another reason why I think black people don't kill ourselves, because a lot of us actually we want to honor our ancestors, and we don't believe that suicide is the way to go. But I still believe it's the way we raise it when it comes to being taught we'll go to hell. But yes, that's a very, very masculine take. I know a lot of people question Nick's masculinity. Sometimes I do as well. I did a video about Nick saying some very homosexual and weird things. One of my very first Nick reaction videos, I think about a month ago. I found it to be really disturbing, and people were defending it, but whatever. I believe in manhood. I believe in masculinity. That suicide is a masculine act. I don't believe that. I believe that suicide is wrong. I think it's cowardly, and I think it's weak, and it is immoral. And you probably do go to hell. I don't have any proof of that, but I don't think God is going to let you go to heaven if you take something away from, if you take life away from yourself that He gave you. I don't know why He would let you go to heaven. I just don't know why He would do that. And I don't want to be on the wrong side of eternity. I don't want to make God mad. I've done enough sin in my life. I want God to be pleased with me. I want Him to look at me and say, "Job well done, my faithful and wonderful servant. You may inherit my kingdom. Not depart from me. I never knew you." I want to make Him proud. I want to live my life to where I have nothing left to live for. Like I've completed my whole journey. I have fulfilled the purpose God gave me. I'm 40 years old, and I feel like my life is just getting started as far as going into my purpose, going into my destiny, because I wasn't fully surrendered to God until recently. I was in and out. I was having sex. I was smoking marijuana, drinking, partying, clubbing, mostly in my 20s and early 30s. I didn't start taking life seriously until I got into my 30s. I had to pay more bills, and I started wanting more out of life. Chasing women and all that wild stuff I was doing. It felt good at the moment, but it didn't do nothing but drain my money and waste time. You got 25-year-olds making millions of dollars on social media. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to compare my life to nobody else, but we didn't have social media when I was growing up. So, kudos to them. It's too many ways to make money. It's too many ways to be successful in life. It's too many ways to get out of your current circumstances than to end your own life. And I'm going to wrap the video with this. When it comes to the white suicide rate, like I talked about before, Nick Fuentes mentioned it. He says, should no white person or any person, I'm glad he said any person, because nobody should be committing suicide. But I'm gonna do a video talking about some of the issues going on in the white male community, simply because Nick Fuentes, he caters and he kind of, I guess you could say, attracts a more white nationalist type of crowd. And I believe that the white nationalist community gravitate to Nick because he's saying things that a lot of people may have noticed and may be thinking, but nobody has actually said boldly because they don't want to get canceled, which Nick has been canceled, but he's beat cancel culture by using platforms that will allow him to spread his message, and he's grown so big. Now he can't be canceled, and his content is allowed on YouTube now. Elon Musk. See, we're in the environment of canceling cancel culture. That's the environment that we're in, especially with Donald Trump winning again. And we need to make sure that the America First movement gets put back in its rightful place, so that way we don't have to go back to cancel culture. Because if the left wins in 2028 and they take the presidency and the House and the Senate, we're going to go back to cancel culture, and it's going to be even worse, right? The left is going to take their revenge, and I don't want that. So we got a lot of work to do, and I want white nationalists to put this right here aside. Like let's like, I understand that we got some grievances with each other between black and white, but man, at the end of the day, my blood is just as American as yours. People that look like me, we bleed American blood just like y'all. And I believe that in order for us to slay the beast that is trying to oppress all of us, we're going to have to come together. I don't believe that the white race is going to be able to save America by themselves, because all white people ain't on the same accord. You don't have enough strong, masculine white men that are ready to lay it all on the line to save this nation. You're going to need black men. You're going to need Hispanic men. You're going to need Arab and Asian and whatever. You're going to need a strong coalition of all men to slay the beast. Look at Trump. Trump was supposed to be the it guy. He was supposed to be the man. He's supposed to be America. He came up with MAGA. Even though the concept of America First is nothing new, Pat Buchanan was saying some of the same stuff Trump is saying now. But Trump has been compromised. Trump has been captured. Trump has been bought off. They got him. That's obvious. He's doing everything but, America First. We didn't vote for him to bomb Iran. We didn't vote for him to blow up boats off the coast of Venezuela. We didn't vote for him to give $20 billion to Argentinian cattle ranchers. What about the cattle ranchers here in America? See what I'm saying? So yeah, white man, I'm gonna do a video about some of y'all's issues. And I know we got our issues too as black people. I ain't trying to act like we all high and mighty. But that racial idolatry got to go. And that's one of the biggest grievances I have with Nick. He right on a lot of stuff, but that racial idolatry got to go, bro. You got to get that up out your heart. God ain't for that. Number one, you can't be Christian and be a white supremacist. It don't work that way. God don't do race. He not letting you in heaven based on your race. I promise you, he not. He not. So I'm not going to go on too much more. I just wanted to say that this has been one of Nick Fuentes' more hidden gems. I think if more people saw some of his other content besides the racial stuff and the white nationalist stuff and mocking J.D. Vance and mocking his wife and the Israel stuff, people would kind of see him in a different light. I'm able to, like I said, chew the meat and spit out the bones. But everybody not able to do that. Everybody don't want to do that. He's going to be forever reminded that he's a white supremacist, that he's a white nationalist, that he hates blacks and Jews and everybody else, when he actually said he don't hate nobody. But he does want to see the America First movement really be America first and not Israel first and not all this other foolishness that's going on. So I'm going to wrap the video up. I thank y'all for watching. Remember, like it on the way out, subscribe, comment, do something so the algorithm can do something for me. I'll catch up on the next one. Peace.